All right, well, welcome everyone. I hope everyone's having a great afternoon. It's certainly a beautiful day. I'm Lisa Adams. Despite what the screen underneath me says, we've got Anna here, but I am North County Land Trust's Outreach and Engagement Coordinator, and we're just so happy to have you here for our annual gathering. I want to extend a thank you to Ian Wilkins, who, if you were here a few minutes back, we had some background music that he provided for the slides that you were just viewing. And we are going to begin in just a few minutes, but I wanted to make sure to take care of a few items of housekeeping before we proceed. So this virtual recording is being recorded and your microphone is muted. We ask that you keep it muted until the end, where there'll be a discussion time that we would love to have you unmute yourself to speak if you have a question for us or for Will after his presentation. You can do that by hovering on your screen. Mine is on the bottom. Sometimes it's on the side, depending on how your screen's set up, but you can click on unmute there. As well, you can turn your video off or on by clicking on stop video or unstop video. At times, the Zoom platform does have some issues with audio. We apologize if that happens. If you need to come out of the Zoom and log back in, you can do so with that same link if that occurs. Also, if you hadn't heard me say it already, there is a chat capability in Zoom, and we'd love to have you send direct messages. If you have a friend on here that you want to say hello to, or certainly to the whole group, you can send us a message as well. I did say that this is going to be recorded, and all of you will be receiving a link to the recorded video so that you can view it and share with friends at a later time as well. Lastly, I just want to remind you to stick around. At the end, we're going to have an open discussion with Will Close. I'm sure you'll have lots of things to want to ask him and tell him, and as well with other members of the staff and board. And now I turn it over to Lucy Avicela, who is our North County Land Trust Board Chair.
Yeah, and we can wait a couple minutes, Lucy, if you want. We just wanted to get the housekeeping out of the way. We're still admitting a few people, so
we still definitely got people joining us.
Okay, I can hold on for another minute or so if you want.
Yeah, let's hold on for just a minute.
Okay.
Anybody have anything they want to share with us while we're hanging out and waiting?
Maybe you could tell us about the morning walk.
The morning walk was awesome. We had a number of, let's see, it was, first of all, I think everybody was just so relieved to see what a beautiful day we had. It was not, earlier this week, we weren't sure if it was going to be that way. There was actually a number of folks who were on the walk here, and by the end, everyone was just glowing. We had great conversations. We saw the beautiful property and the Watatic property and the Hardy Road House property that North County Land Trust is so excited about. So I'm sorry, I'm multitasking, kind of letting people in, and I'm a little discombobulated, but it was a wonderful morning. And I think one of the things that I just was very thankful for everyone to be able to be together. That felt really great. So we'll touch a little bit more on that later. So yeah, so
we had some folks that we hadn't seen in a while, which was really great. Some familiar faces, a couple of new faces, which was also really nice. Some people that we hadn't met before. and some that came from a distance to come see us.
Yeah, and I'm gonna, so actually, some of the folks that are on the call now, Jane Layton, Gwen Loud, and Miranda Loud, came all the way out from Lincoln to see me and Watertown. And it's so wonderful to be able to share the work that I'm doing here with the people who knew me way back when I started as a greenhorn in conservation. So that was very special for me. All right. Yeah. And Mary says it was a wonderful event and hope we can do more in the future. Oh, great. Scott Royal's with us today. So yeah, so I think now that we have, yeah, I think we're good to go.
Okay. Well, greetings, everyone.
Yeah.
And welcome to the North County Land Trust Annual Gathering. It's exciting to know that we have, excuse me, people viewing from outside the area who are for different reasons tethered to North Central Massachusetts, much like myself, although I don't live that far away. I'm always surprised in my travels when I'm far from home and meet someone who spent time in this humble region. It's a special place. I'd like to begin by asking you to pause with me for a land acknowledgement, which is a custom that dates back centuries in many Native communities. They would begin all their gatherings with an expression of gratitude and appreciation for the land. And this is our brief 2021 version. Today, we honor the Wabanaki Confederacy and the Nipmuc Nation on whose land we sit. We respect the enduring relationship they have with this land, and we seek to better understand our place in that history. Thank you. So Massachusetts has always been a leader in land conservation, but for too many years, the benefits of conserving open land were only realized by those who owned it or could easily access it. And we are among those people. And what we understand about the health and existential benefits of natural spaces hasn't been clear to people who, through choice, oppression, marginalization, either live their lives in overdeveloped areas or whose livelihood directly depends on the extraction of natural resources. But it feels as though over the past year, we've reached a tipping point. Discussions about land conservation have made it to the mainstream. The idea of keeping land natural and undeveloped is a benefit that thousands of people are finally coming to understand. We face challenges. There's mounting development pressure in New England as people from across the country flee from drought, fires, and floods, and discover the environmental stability of our forested hillsides. And I'm sure I don't need to tell anyone on this call that a warming climate is rapidly changing the balanced ecosystems that support life. So we have work to do on many levels. And with your help, the North County Land Trust is ready to lead, organize, collaborate, inspire projects and programming that will educate ourselves and support our diverse habitats and species. As you will hear and will soon be able to read in the annual review, we've had a busy and productive year by all measures. We continue to thrive with a small, very able staff, a growing number of community volunteers and supporters. Thank you. And a focused board of directors who quietly share their expertise and give of themselves in numerous ways. 2 notes in that regard. This year, Rochelle Brown stepped off the board after 9 years of service. She was a fiercely dedicated director who gave of herself in every way, and we will miss her. As a follow-up to that, I'm extremely pleased to welcome Wilson Acuna and Ben Howard as new members of the board of directors. Very exciting. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you for all you do to support the health of the planet. We are part of something special here, and there's a lot we can do together. I hope you enjoy the program. Anna?
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. That's great. And I had such a lovely time this morning. And for all of those of you who could join us, it was wonderful to see you. And let's do it again really soon. I had a great time. So it's so good to see everybody here. And before I get too far into it, I want to kind of echo some of Lucy's sentiments about the board. I wish to wholeheartedly thank them and the staff for their dedication and hard work. Since the last annual gathering, we've added some more team members to our team. Now we have a director of finance and administration, which is Matt Emsley. And most recently, only about a month on, is a new director of development, Marcy Eckel. And and of course, the rest of my crew, which is Jassy, director of land protection, Emily Merlino, our stewardship coordinator, and Lisa Adams, who of course helps out with all of the outreach. And my team is great. I love them, and they do a fantastic job. We can't do this alone. We need everybody, and so we're lifting many hands to make light work, and I think that my team's doing great. Okay. In addition to the staff and board members, I cannot say enough about our volunteers. They serve as the bedrock of the organization. To you all, my staff, board, and all of our volunteers, you have been instrumental in the accomplishments I'll be talking about today. I'm so proud to be working alongside each and every one of you as we fulfill the mission of North County Land Trust. Speaking of volunteers, it has become a tradition for the staff to pick a particular volunteer to receive an award for their outstanding service throughout the year. For their hard work and dedication, we award them with a rock. It's always difficult to narrow down the field, but when Scott Royal's name came up, we knew that it was his year. Scott reached out to us a few years back with a sincere offer to help and an impressive resume. He brings years of trail maintenance and Sawyer experience and has been generous with sharing his knowledge and advice with us here at NCLT. He's humble and conscientious. He gives freely and he genuinely cares. I took so much joy in painting his award and channeling all of our sincere appreciation for his work over the past few years. I know all of us were excited to present the 2021 You Rock Volunteer Award to Scott Royal. Take a look.
So every year, North County Land Trust gives a You Rock Award to one of their volunteers for the year. And this year, you are our You Rock volunteer.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you coming out anytime I call you to come cut.
My saw is happy. My
Yeah,
saw is happy.
well,
So, yeah.
It makes me
Thank
happy
you, guys.
too, and we appreciate it. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Sorry we ambushed you.
No.
It's so fun to ambush our volunteers like that. It really is. So thank you, Scott Royal. And that was Emily Merlino, our stewardship coordinator, presenting. She does great work with our volunteers. Thank you, Em. I wish we were all under the tent again at Doyle Community Center, although I have to say that the hike today was awesome, and I think it might be a new tradition. I would love to see that. But anyway, I wish that we were all in person, but These are the times we live in, and I'm at least thankful to be able to gather virtually, something I don't think I ever expected to say in my lifetime. Gathering is something humans do. We especially gather to mark significant occasions and share in joys and sorrows. One of our recent sorrows was saying goodbye to Jay Janelle, a friend to me, North County Land Trust, and basically everyone he met. He passed after a battle with cancer in August, and many sent tribute gifts in Jay's name that will strengthen the care and protection of the land he was so connected to. We also remember Sean McGaney, whose loving family paid tribute to him by sponsoring and installing a granite bench at Crocker, which is a fitting tribute. Continuing Sean's walking and cleaning up trash tradition, and to celebrate his life and legacy this October 24th, which is Sean's birthday, join his friends and family for the trail tour and trash cleanup event at Crocker Conservation Area. I know I'll be there. That's in Fitchburg. We'll continue to honor and celebrate the lives of all of those who could not be with us today. We're also gathering to celebrate joys. We have so many things to celebrate from this past year. For those of you who have not followed along closely, we have been involved with the protection of over 350 acres in 4 towns since last year. We are actively working on many land protection projects throughout the region with our landowners and partnering organizations. Another important aspect of our work is engaging people with the land to help them understand the value and significance of protected open space and make it relevant to their lives. All of this work, conserving land, educating people, connecting people, all of it is basically relationship building. And relationships take people, time, and attention. This is why I'm so thankful to all of our financial contributors. The critical support we receive supports the staff time, expertise, and consistency needed in order to increase the pace of conservation. We desperately need to grow in order to keep up with the work that is needed. Your contributions, your annual gifts, your memberships, event participation, monthly donations, even Amazon Smile donations, all of it is desperately needed and immensely appreciated. As we enter our 30th year, please help us to continue to increase our impact, something we will not be able to do without increased support. This time next year, I hope our contributors, now around 300 people, will be doubled. So bring a friend. And next up, I want to share with you a highlight video that will give you a sense of the 3 main projects that I'm talking about from last year that make up those over 350 acres. So take a look.
Hi, I'm Anna Wilkins. I'm the Executive Director for North County Land Trust. In January of 2021, North County Land Trust purchased 201 acres of land on the south slope of Mount Watatic, protecting the South Peak and adding to the existing conservation lands blanketing the mountain. Partnering with Department of Fish and Game as part of a multi-phase land conservation effort, North County Land Trust pre-acquired the land. The 200 acres features a mix of mature and young forests, pastures, ponds, and wetlands that provide critical wildlife habitat and protect the site's biodiversity. As part of the project, North County Land Trust will retain 15 acres of mostly open field and the old farmhouse that will provide space for the collaborative environmental education and low-impact outdoor experiences, which our organization values and for which it is known. Mount Watatic is a special place and holds the hearts of many. North County Land Trust could not have achieved this goal without the generosity of key donors, hundreds of individuals, and groups such as the Friends of the Wapak Trail, the Mid-State Trail Committee, and many more. As we enter into this new relationship with the land around Watatic, We invite all to join us in celebrating this significant moment for the land and all who care for her. This 157-acre property located off Keys Road and Princeton Street in West Gardner consists of a mix of woodlands, small ponds, a disturbed sand area, a certified vernal pool, access to Parker Pond, and provides watershed protection for the nearby Otter River. These habitats connect via an adjacent private parcel of woodland to the city-owned 122-acre Cummings Otter River Conservation Area established in 2012. In 2000, the property was sold to a developer, and in 2004, the land was prepped for an approved 100-lot subdivision. Late last year, North County Land Trust was approached by the bank's broker from Landvest, Keith Ross, who helped facilitate the donation of the property to North County Land Trust for conservation. The land has a rich history and has long been used for recreation by local residents. North County Land Trust is pleased that it will forever remain open to the public for passive recreation. Neighborhood resident Joan Gould has been concerned with the development proposals since 2002. She said, "Knowing that North County Land Trust will be owning the property for conservation purposes is a godsend." North County Land Trust recently acquired 15 acres in Westminster that will protect 3/4 of a mile of the Mid-State Trail in perpetuity, thanks to the generous donation of the land by Westminster Business Park, and also Marie Auger from the Mid-State Trail Committee, who was instrumental in coordinating the transfer. This is an exciting acquisition for North County Land Trust to conserve acreage in Westminster and to help protect the continuity of the 92-mile Mid-State Trail, a well-known hiking gem that extends from Rhode Island, crossing the gentle hills of central Massachusetts and eventually connecting to the Wapak Trail in New Hampshire at Mount Watatic. The parcel has been cleared for development, but local officials were adamant about protecting the trail from being segmented or diverted to the road. Our stewardship coordinator, Emily Merlino, also volunteers as a Mid-State Trail maintainer. She says of the land donation, "This project is a great example of how landowners, developers, municipalities, trail organizations, and conservation organizations can work together to ensure that land and trail resources are protected while meeting the housing needs of the community." North County Land Trust will continue to work to encourage more permanent protection of the trail in this manner in the
Sorry about that. We cut it off prematurely, but
My sincere apologies. We will
Very touchy.
make sure, yeah, it's a little touchy on the computer. We will make sure that you all have that complete video though, so that you can have access. We'll have a link to that. It only had a couple seconds left there, but we will make sure that you are able to see the entirety. My apologies.
all right. So what's Zoom without some technical difficulties, really, folks? I mean, let's be real here. All right. Acquiring these lands is just the beginning. North County Land Trust is now in relationship with this land, and we are responsible to it. It's up to us, the North County Land Trust community, to ensure that relationship grows. The final transfer of the 186 acres of the Watatic South Slope project to Department of Fish and Wildlife is in process now and will likely take place this fall. North County Land Trust is eager and excited to vision how we utilize the Hardy Road property and the Gilchrist House to provide opportunities for finding personal connection with nature. That is, and educating folks about the land that supports them. It's also true for the Ebenezer Keys Conservation Area, which you see Paul DeMeo standing on right there. This spring, we will be working with students from the Conway School, a graduate program in sustainable landscape design, and the community of Gardner to further develop a vision for this public space that is full of engaging outdoor possibilities. If this sounds exciting to you, don't be shy. The work requires community connections, participation, and resources to have the greatest impact. Anyone who knows me knows I am always looking for opportunities to reach more people and partners in order to enrich our relationship with the land. For me, everything we do at a community level should first consider the land. This is what people call a sense of place. Where do you go in order to feel centered? Where does your water come from? Where does it go? Where does your food come from? Where is your wood coming from? These are the things that, the things that sustain your life. Are you in relationship with them? The plants and animals that have evolved here, do you know their names and habits? Do they know yours? For many of you, I think you will have answers to these questions. And I think they are important questions. This summer, I had the privilege of spending a week at Knoll Farm Retreat Center in Waitsfield, Vermont. There I was presented with many hard questions, which led me to this realization. The answers are less important than the questions that you are asking. Your answers might change over time. But if you are not asking the right questions, you are not challenging your thinking. You are not living consciously. Living connected to nature affords us the time and space to ask questions, to challenge ourselves physically and mentally, and to live consciously. Imagine if we as a society lived closer to nature. When I think about North County Land Trust's role in the region, I think about our programming gently leading our communities to this end. Many of us are already striving to live closer to nature, to challenge our thinking, to know the land that supports us and be in relationship with it. As creatures of the earth, we are all predisposed to this. But we all have our hard realities, and some have had more opportunity than others to access nature in this way. This is why we tried to host a diverse range of programming and keep it free, to remove at least one barrier to that opportunity. We also look for partners that can expand our outreach to groups that are not yet aware of North County Land Trust and the programming that is available. We curate programs to reach landowners, municipalities, other land trusts, kids, and that's through partnerships with our town's libraries, Boys and Girls Scouts, Boys and Girls Club, Busy Bees Preschool, and Growing Places. We also have co-programming with teachers from Fitchburg State, Mount Wachusett Community College, and other middle and high schools. I'm also happy that we're restarting our nature walks with the Montechusett Veterans Outreach Center in Gardner and co-sponsoring that with the North Bobbin Trail Association. Again, we make these opportunities free and possible because of volunteer hours, donations, and Mass Cultural Council grants, so thank you. I could prattle on about upcoming and future programming, but then you would have no reason to stay engaged with our monthly newsletter and event page on our website. So I'm going to move on. It's now time for me to introduce our keynote speaker. I'm very excited about this presentation, Will Close. So I met Will, as one does nowadays, through Instagram. Will has his own business selling note cards with his beautiful painting studies of New England plants and wildlife. On his website, under the About tab, he has this mission statement. The mission of Will Close Studios is to create a greater connection between people, community, and nature. That's my personal mission statement. So I had to get to know this guy. He, at this point in time, had not yet graduated from Mass Art. He reached me through his art, through the internet, and all the noise that exists there, because his image, the images that he focuses on and pulls to the surface, and the style in which he does it, resonated with me so strongly. So I just heard a statistic that the average person scrolls through 300 feet of content on their smartphone a day. That's the height of the Statue of Liberty, 6 inches at a time. Will's paintings made me stop and take action. Order his cards, look into what he was all about. Hang on just a second. Just close the door. Sorry about that. Look into what he was all about, reach out and connect with him personally. That is the power that the artist brings to the table. And that is why I'm excited that together with Will, we started the North County Land Trust Artist in Residence program. An artist in residency program gives artists the opportunity to live and work outside of their usual environments, providing them with time to reflect, discover, and create. As you will see from Will's exquisite presentation and works, the type of thinking, communicating that artists are compelled to do and are given the opportunity to do through residency strengthens our world. So without further ado, I present to you Mr. Will Close. All right, Will, we're gonna, let's see.
Right.
Oh, that's one of
Pulling
the
it up.
most seamless transitions that I could have asked for.
That's beautiful.
Great. Well, welcome, guys. Thank you so much, Anna, for that introduction. And I just want to give a shout out to all the folks in the audience too that have supported me all these years. And there's some of my good Nature Connection mentors and art mentors there as well. So yeah, I just want to really thank you guys all for coming and supporting me. So yeah, I was lucky enough to be a North County Land Trust's inaugural artist in residence. And I hope today to give you a little quick story, if you will, of my time on the land. And that time I spent was about a week, and I'm hoping to be back for all 4 seasons on the land. So there'll be a little bit of time traveling in this presentation, so just be forewarned. All right, without further ado, let's jump in. All right, so if you feel comfortable, close your eyes and go back into your memory, the coldest you have ever been. What does that feel like? And hold on to that feeling. Sit with it. Now open your eyes. The sun, that ball of fire, pierces the treetops. Its warm glow seeps across the eastern horizon. The temperature is 18 degrees. You're happy to see the sun. That energy starts coursing through your veins, through the land, through the birds, trees, lichen, you name it. This is morning. It is relief. It's joyous. It's something sacred. My name is Will Close. I am an artist, naturalist, and educator. I recently graduated from Massachusetts College of Art and Design. It's a bit of a mouthful. With a BFA in painting, or Bachelor of Fine Arts. Art and nature have always been a constant in my life, and at this point, they flow as one. I come from Concord, Massachusetts, which is originally the homeland of the Neshoba tribe, which was part of the Massachusetts Confederation of Algonquins, as far as I'm aware. At present day, Egg Rock, which is this image before you, where the Assabet and the Sudbury meet to form the Concord. And this land was first settled, was known as the Musketaquid, or Musketacook, as I learned from Thoreau, meaning dead stream or water, which I believe refers to the slow-moving nature of the river. It was first settled 8,000 years ago, with pioneer nomadic hunters passing through 10,000 years ago. These first people made use of the land in relation to its capacity, with intercropping farming and hunting, gathering, and fishing, which was an ecologically sound existence. And then in the 1650s, English settlers from the Massachusetts Bay Colony claimed ownership over portions of the Musketacook. They called it Concord, which became one of the first inland settlements in America. Concord, according to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, suggests the meaning of hearts together. And I would like to point out, sort of keeping that definition in mind, that North County Land Trusts, where I am from, on the Concord River, share a watershed, the Merrimack River watershed. We both sort of share a history sort of tied up in rivers. And from what Anna has described, the land trust was formed in response to the pollutants coming from the paper mill that was in Nashua. And to this day, you can go and stand in the Nashua River where sort of this bank is, and I guess there's still paper pulp from that industry. Likewise, in Concord, there's still heavy metals and other pollutants in the sediment. So I just want to bring attention to that because, coming into this residency, I wanted to make a point of understanding where we are in our current day. And now 8 to 10 generations later from this, let's see, that's 1600s, or that's 400 about years later, what the heck is going on? And you're probably wondering what the heck is, what is on the slide right now? Why is there an astronaut on the screen? Well, we're the sum of dreams of those that came before us, and part of a continuous story. And in this current narrative, we have divorced ourselves from the natural world. We leave ourselves out of the definition of nature. And at the end, if you Google this definition of nature, you'll see what I'm talking about. In doing so, nature becomes that wall of green over there, the unknown, the other, the thing we don't talk to. If we aren't in a relationship, aren't a part of nature, then where are we? Expelled, orbiting the Earth like a satellite? So for me, when I was approached with this opportunity to work with the land trusts, I wanted to think differently about my relationship with the land. So how do I rekindle that relationship? How do I reconnect? For me, I chose to focus on 3 spaces life exists in and on. And as you'll find, really these spaces all blend together, and it's almost impossible to separate out sections of the natural world. They all are one. But as far as I could tell, there's the sky, and there's the earth, and then there's the body, which connects it together, that tether. So if our feet are on the ground, and then our body is that connector, or the tether, if you will, our head is like dreaming up in the clouds somewhere. And every human since my time has sort of had these dreams or been in these spaces. So as an artist, my attention then as a newcomer was to be present, quiet my monkey brain, as I like to call it, slow down, observe in real time, not just through a field guide or a screen, but as the kids like to say, in IRL, or real life. I would collect via drawing and note-taking. And for me, drawing is 3 things. 1, a slowing down tool, so looking and looking again. 2, an empathy and stewardship or curation tool. And the root of curation actually means to care for, which I think is a nice little twist there, with the art meaning and the stewardship meeting. And 3, a fruition of vision tool. And what I mean by that is taking the thing that's out there or up in your head and making it physical. And lastly, drawing is a relatively non-extractive or gentle on the land activity. So where was this all going to happen? Well, it was Mount Watotic, as you guys already saw a little bit of. And for those Metro Boston people, that's outside of 495, somewhere out there. But yeah, it's this beautiful location that bridges 2 townships, Ashburnham and Ashby. The mountain itself, Mount Watotic, is old, 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 old. It's 40 million years old, and it's an old monadnock carved by receding glaciers, wind, and rain. And what's special about this location is it really is a place where many things flow together. So whether it's earth to sky, like on the summit, or the forest, boreal to temperate forests, cranberries to blueberries, there's so many different kinds of berries and fruits there. Moose to mice, coyote to domestic dog, and of course the towns, Ashburnham and Ashby, and then fish and game to North County Land Trust. And I believe maybe there's even some other organizations that will be involved too. So it's a beautiful place where many characters, many stories, and people are sort of colliding, are coming together under one roof or one sky. So let's go back a little bit to the intro. And that moment was morning. And I was there on the day of the spring equinox. Winter was on the run, but still making a stand. That first night was cold. It was 18 degrees. I was stripped down to the earth I was lying on. I felt level, going through the same harsh conditions as those around me, the trees, the birds, animals, you name it. This experience, the shedding, brought me to my knees in gratitude. The clothes on my body, my tent, and the sun in the morning. From that point on, each decision mattered. I had to tend to my own inner fire while shaking hands with the land. And so there is my tent, my trusty tent, and that's facing east. So actually through the trees, if you could zoom in through this image, you would be able to see Boston all the way out in the horizon there. In the morning, or that morning, I woke up with the birds and learned their language, not just of sound, but their mannerisms and their emotion. They would often sit in that treetop there, that big white pine, just at the foot of the mountain, and often fly from the east, into the east, sort of almost following the sun, it seemed like. And then immediately I wanted to sort of get a grounding and start navigating and orient myself to the land. So what was important to do then was to track the sun. So progressively from sundown to sunset, I would take the degrees taking my fist and extending it all the way out in front of my face. And so if you make a fist, that's about 10 degrees. And if you count up from the horizon, you get the sort of rough degrees of where the sun is in the sky. So you start to pinpoint sort of where the sun is. This immediately helped me orient to the land and keep me from losing my way, especially in deep forest. So soon, by sort of learning these little subtleties, such as the sun on my face, I could tell where south was, or the wind in my hair, based on knowing the predominant winds. So each subtle indicator revealed which direction I would go next. Oops. Down logs became arrows, or as a joke, GPSs, global positioning systems. They were only one piece of the puzzle, but taking compass bearings, and on each log, I was able to sort of figure out that it looked like they were where the predominant winds were coming. It correlated to the direction that these old trees had fallen. So that became an indicator in the forest. So all these little subtleties also was true for finding animals and keeping my attention out far beyond my immediate bubble and continuously working that edge helped me see wildlife without pushing them away. this porcupine. And this little guy, I think he was actually a porcupet, which I love that. That's probably one of the best baby animal names, porcupet. I believe that's the official name. Was a regular. He would often be down by the pond's edge. Usually we'd run into each other on sunset. And, you know, once we got past our first encounter, which was a little hairy because, you know, I walked up upon him and he was startled by me being there. We eventually became accustomed to each other and, you know, became almost friends, if I can say that. And he was there for the whole week I was there. And, you know, not being around people, he became my good company along with the birds. And so here we get to one of the phases of or spaces, which is Earth. And in the Earth, I found tracks and scat and many other different signs from animals. So here you see there's a white-tailed deer sign. So there are footprints there, and there's numerous trails on the landscape, as well as antler scrapes, which became these indicators. And I found that if I would follow the deer trails, they'd often lead to other, you know, neat discoveries on the landscape. The animals usually know what's up on the landscape, right? So they knew where it was warm, where to stay out of the rain. So here's just some images of some of the exquisite beauty that I was seeing on the landscape. So there's all sorts of history and time scales of time occurring on this landscape, from old forests to just beginning colonizing, you know, what was plowed fields or disturbed soils. There's just incredible lichens, and you can see there's this mixture of this kind of boreal landscape where you've got these, you know, pretty northern living species like these lichens and club mosses and wintergreens. But then you also get all sorts of deciduous trees up there. So I started moving my attention upward into the trees and started recording my encounters with different species that I was seeing up there. So there's everything from just about every birch I can name to different types of maples and spruce and beech and so on. So here are just some images, the diversity of trees there. I've heard that lichen is a good indicator that it's a healthy environment, and there's a lot of lichen there. So the chipmunks and downy woodpeckers gave me company, as there weren't many people there, and they showed me their homes and what they foraged for. I was patient. The most talkative was probably the red squirrel and maybe the chipmunk. The chickadees, they always had to know what was up, often, you know, coming within a couple feet from my head. And each evening I would take a different route up to the ridge where my tent was. And this led me to see all sorts of different things, such as moose droppings and bear scat, as well as grouse, so I thought. There's other species too, like all the club moss and sword brambles. So here on the left, I believe that was black bear, and then on the right, I believe that's moose in its sort of winter stage where it's eating sort of dry, woody plants. So it's nice pellet, not soft sword, which you see in the summer, I believe. And then so about midway through the week, I ascended the mountain, and with the blessing of the land trust, I had sort of free range of the land. So I was able to bushwhack up the eastern side of the mountain. And this climb, going on top of the mountain, you truly do meet the sky. It's 360 views, and you start to get a change of perspective. All those trees down below, I start to see them from the forest, each natural community on the landscape. So I drew this little sort of map of all the different or well, the view out to the east or southeast. And my campsite's sort of up to the right. And there's the pond, and there's this big barn, farmhouses in the distance. And there's there's this huge laundry list of different natural communities occurring on the landscape, such as cranberry bog, spruce, tall white pines, dark damp hemlock forests, vernal pools, birch and briars, and grass, and more grass, sedges, rush, you name it, as well as aquatic life and many pioneer species along the ridge, such as some evergreens and willow. So that's just to name a few. There's a whole bunch more I won't make you sit for. And yeah, you're up so high on this mountain that these birds that down the valley were pinpricks, you suddenly are looking down at them. And you're seeing their backs. So these were the local turkey vultures, which I've heard are a sign of spring because they're one of the early migrants up here in New England. And this is a view from sunset. So I spent the evening on the mountainside just below it. I made camp facing east so that I would take advantage of that eastern light as it rose. That's probably the warmest place. You don't want to be on the north side of the mountain sleeping. And yeah, and then the following morning, I got up early. I was woken up by the junco, who seemed to be one of the few birds that was up there. And I descended the pole trail, which there's an interesting history behind the pole trail. Essentially, it's this long trail that's cleared, and it goes all the way down to the road. And so along this trail, there's beech and oak and more juncos and other bird life, and some old hemlock, huge hemlock trees, which is rare to see these days. And I imagine it's great bear habitat because I've heard that a black bear like beech nuts. I didn't see any bear, fortunately, or maybe not so fortunately. And then in the afternoon, when I was back in the lowlands, it was warm. I was just enjoying the setting sun, and I sat and started drawing this striped maple, or moose maple. I think it's also goosefoot maple. There's many names for it, but you can sort of see there's these beautiful green stripes that run down moose maple or striped maple, and there was this little drop of sap on it from injury on the branch, and I knew that just a month before, in February, was when maple sugaring was occurring, and I was like, I wonder if there's any sugar in there. So I licked it, and sure enough, it was sugary as ever, and that was just a really sweet way to go into the evening and the week. Of course, the chickadees came swooping in right over my head to see what the heck I was doing while I was licking the trees. It's usually what the squirrels do. And then night came, and each night I was lifted up to the heavens. On the ridge, it was almost a full 360 view of the stars. The American woodcock, or timber doodle, would be doing its bzzzt, bzzzt, bzzzt call. That's my best impression of the woodcock, but it's Pete call. I don't know if I was hearing it do its mating call or its flight display. It would do this kind of like, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but this little whistling call as it would fly around. They're very cute. But yeah, I'd hear this guy usually every night, and at sunrise as well. Coyote, he or she, would usually come by, and I had a game cam set up so I could tell, so I knew exactly that there was coyotes out there. But this was probably around dinner time, as I found out. So checking me out while I was cooking supper, and they would usually work the edges, so along the tree line, which was neat because I've heard that coyotes do really well, and they like to be in places where multiple or two habitats meet, and that rang true. And so at night, Canis Major, or the dog star, oh, that's Sirius, which is this on the left here, would be up in the sky, just off of Orion to the south. And Sirius is one of the brightest stars in the sky, so you can usually recognize it. And that was kind of neat, because Sirius would sort of be like guarding the southeast sky and like keep an eye on the sun for me, I guess. And I think I include this photo, and I'm sure it's hard to tell, but what I love about this image is that there's still experiences out there today that a phone can't capture, and the stars are at night are one of those experiences. So yeah, I just started recording. I try to look up at the stars, and I often have to go up and use the bathroom. Your body's going through all sorts of different things when you're camping on the land. You're cold, or your body's just acting weird. So I often have to get up, and then as I get up, I would see the full rotation of the constellations. Particularly, I was able to watch the Big Dipper rotate around Polaris, or the North Star, which that's something you just got to experience. It's pretty magical. If you'll let me say that. And then so at the end, I was able to record this again, that 360 view, and I ended up sort of making my own story up, which is kind of how constellations came about back in the day. It's just people naming stars, and hey, that looks like a dog or whatever. And for me, I was like, all right, maybe it's not a lion, but it's a coyote for me. So I sort of made up my own constellation chart based on existing constellations. So I can go back to that if you guys are curious. And then when I got back, I did, and this is part of my dissertation for Mass College of Art, but I got back and I did these large scale watercolor painting and drawings, which were 63 by 54. So if I outstretched my arms, I would just touch the edge all the way around. It was outstretched arms would be the size. And then the idea there was that in your peripheral vision, if you're looking at the image, you're still within that image. You're immersed and within the painting. So here are some details of this, and I chose to again focus on those places, those spaces. So the earth, and then the viewer, I would say, is the body, right? It's like that in between, and then I did one of the sky coming up. And here you can see, I tried to include everything I was seeing on the landscape. So I've added some of the frost that was, making these stones move around, and some of the receding snow. And I left some parts sort of unfinished to indicate the species that were just arriving or that are partially fragile, I guess, like this morning cloak butterfly, which actually winters over, but is one of the few insects you're seeing on the landscape in March. And then the night sky. So this again was 63 by 54 inches. And this orientation is looking 180 degrees. So that's south on the compass bearing. And the idea here is that you can, I had it so that depending on how you're looking at this image, the orientation, you get a different look at the sky. So now we're looking north. So the Big Dipper, Little Dipper, Draco, and Polaris are up there. The Swan is up there too. And that's 0 degrees north. And yeah, for me, the sky is sort of this, I wanted to capture that feeling when you look up at the stars, and it's overwhelming. These stars are so old. And while I'm like standing there shivering, trying to go to the bathroom, I'm like staring at these stars. They're like trillions of years old, and it's just this overwhelming experience. Not to mention they're moving, which you don't get to see often if you're brushing your teeth in your bathroom at night with the shades drawn, right? So something you gotta get out and do. And to end, I'd like to read this quote, which is from the summit engraving, which was placed up there by some of the folks that helped preserve the original section of the mountain back in the day. That was in the 2000s, I believe. And yeah, so the quote goes as follows. Other stones in other places may commemorate the histories of people and things now dead and gone. This stone marks the site of mountains that lived, a mountain that lives on because of people who cared, people who started with nothing but a dream and the will to work for it, until the dream became as solid as this stone, as sure as this ground beneath your feet, as true as this mountain on which you stand, this mountain holding you up to meet the sky. So to close, I'd just like to invite you guys to join us in dreaming, as so many have done before us. And at that, I'll close my presentation, and thanks again. If you want to get in touch, I'm sure you can reach out to any of us, but there's my email and my Instagram and my websites to look further, or if you're interested in some of my work. So thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Oh, wonderful, Will. We loved it.
That was great. Well,
You're
Thank
a
you.
wonderful young man.
Thank you
That's
so much, guys.
fantastic. Yeah. So,
Okay, I'm gonna go back to the first slide, I think.
yeah, so I'm going to open it up to questions. I'm gonna see if I can, and just so you know, Will has shared with us a PDF of this presentation, which I can send out if you wanted to zoom in on any of those photos to take a closer look. And also, we are working now with the Fitchburg Art Museum to get an exhibition of those large pieces that he did, and maybe even some of his, hopefully, some more of his work after he does another stint. And obviously his journal pieces are amazing just in themselves. So stay tuned for that. That's in the works. So any questions? Let's see, I'm trying to
A few comments, people saying outstanding, and
Mary says you're a brave man.
I think for braving the 18
Outstanding.
degrees.
Yes. Yep.
It was called, for sure.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's see. An inspiration to get back to camping.
Mm.
And then that was great, Will. Let's talk soon. That's from Jess Roby.
Oh, hi, Jess.
Yeah. And then Scott Royal, beautiful.
Hi, Will. It's good to see you, Will.
Oh yeah, hi, Jess. Is that Jess? Sorry for me. Wait, hold on. Let me stop.
That was me.
Yeah.
That was me. I'm not on video because I'm kind of
yeah.
just slouched on my sofa, but it was really good to see you.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody with any questions for Will?
Very thorough, man.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, Vicky.
Yes, Will, the opening picture with the sun that's on the horizon, I think is the most stunning. I absolutely love that picture, and I'm wondering whether that was one of the evenings or mornings, or when was it, and how did you decide that you would needed to be there at that moment?
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, to answer the first part, that was the facing east, and that was morning. So
Yep.
just me and the sun. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, are you referring to what time as in the season? So the equinox, or?
So what time in your week?
Oh, what time of the week?
Yeah, like day 1, day 4, day 7.
Yeah. Well, there's a nitty gritty answer, sort of technical answer, which is I think I went up Wednesday, which, well, for one reason, there's less people on the mountain, which if you guys have been to Mount Watotic, you know that it's become very popular, almost more so than Wachusett. So almost a little no secret. And then the other two is I wanted to make sure that I was ready to, and this was, I think I was living in Boston before that, so I was didn't have my mountain legs on, or I needed to prepare, I guess, to ascend the mountain and go off trail. So I wanted to make sure that I was feeling ready to do so. So I chose the middle week, but also I just felt the need to explore the whole area before I went up and connect with the earth, really, and feel grounded before I went up into the sky. So, no pun intended, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I just am so gripped by this photo. I just love it so much. And so I thought maybe you saw it when you woke up, and maybe you decided to take a picture of it the next day or something like that. Like, what day did you see it? And what day did you
Oh,
take the
yeah.
picture?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, this was when I was camping on the mountainside. So that was from my hammock, essentially, as the sun was rising. And that was at
Okay,
1,500 feet or something, is where that picture was taken. I believe that's
oh,
elevation.
I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah, maybe
Thank you.
it's worth it if you can get there up at sunset, or hike before the sunrise. It's worth it, definitely. Yeah.
All right. Yes, Lucy, I see your hand raised.
I'm practicing. Will, that was wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. It reminds me, I've become kind of a flatlander. I do a lot of hiking, but I don't often elevate. And it's just a really nice reminder that getting some elevation is really an amazing sort of new perspective on things. I'm curious, and you may not have thought of this at all, but you mentioned wanting to go back at some point in the other 3 seasons, and I wondered if you've thought about when that would be, or why you would go at a certain time in a season, or if you've even given that thought at this point.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so my hope was to go, was to be consecutive, and to be there for, so I started on the spring equinox, the first, that night when it was 18 degrees. It was literally like winter was still there, but then that day it got up into like the 50s or 60s, I believe. So I wanted to experience summer, but unfortunately I was still finishing up classes. This was this past summer. So I'm hoping, though, my next stint will be I think October, which we just passed I think, when was it, the 23rd was the other major date we needed to hit, but let's see, when was that? The 22nd, right, was the other turning point for the sun. But yeah, I would like to go in October, and then I guess during the winter time, and then again maybe for either spring or summer, since I missed summer. But ideally being on the solstices or equinoxes. Yeah.
All right, Todd, I'm gonna have you ask your question, unmute yourself and ask your question, and then we'll go to you, Lori.
Okay, Will, I'm wondering that, given your main idea was to connect with the land, which you knew before you're going into residency, did you have a sense for what you were going to actually make other than sketchbook drawings while you were there at the Watotic site? I'm asking because I'm curious to learn, at what point did you decide to make these images that were as large as your own reach?
Yeah.
And I also connected to that. You made a beautiful comment when you were describing them, which I just want to hear a little bit more about. And you said something about, if you could speak a little bit more about human scale and immersion within the land.
Oh man, that's tough. That's a good one, Todd. Thanks for your question. Let's see. Yeah, so I guess going in, I knew that that journaling and drawing and note taking was, I didn't mention taking photos, which was part of it, but um, those activities, I mean, that's sort of been my training, my professional training, I guess if I can say that. So that was sort of my go-to. But also I knew from past experience that was a really good way to sort of shake hands with land, or like be on landscape for the first time and slow down and build empathy. And as I did that, it almost, you become so empathetic or so caring. I think the definition of love or something is like continuous attention, contained attention. And yeah, you end up building this relationship with what you're drawing, and to the point where, like, when I was collecting firewood to make a fire, I like, it would be hard to get firewood because I'd be like, oh, the chipmunk just, that's his, like, his little highway that he takes to go up his tree. Like, there's so many, or the grass, I wouldn't want to be sitting on the grass all the time. So you start to love the place when you slow down and you appreciate all these interactions that are occurring in and throughout it, as well as how it's supporting you, such as, for me, as firewood and water. Yeah. And then when I started developing sort of the idea, I didn't exactly know how I wanted to finish up, but this idea with the final images, I didn't quite have that solidified in the beginning, but it slowly came into fruition, this idea that the experience that I was having on the ground, and sort of me as this body, or again, this idea of the tether, which is, I'm this like animal that's connected with the earth, and yet that I'm mobile, and I can go to and from, but I can't actually jump off of the ground. I can't fly into the sky as much as I wish I could, but I can ascend the mountain and sort of dream up in the sky and watch the stars. So the landscape, the place helped me sort of decide, okay, I need to make work that's about the ground, and then it's work that's about the sky. And really, is that also the quote on the summit there, where the earth meets the sky, or being held up to meet the sky, that, put the nail in the coffin for me. That's a funny way to put it, but yeah, so and yeah, the sort of human scale, I wanted to sort of provide that experience of and of being on the landscape, and that's why I wanted to have these immersive pieces that you could get lost in, and really a large piece of artwork. It forces you to slow down and spend time with. Not to mention, I think probably while I was sitting and sleeping in my tent, I was, maybe that had something to do with the scale, like that rectangle, that I was contained in. So maybe that somehow translated into the final composition or containment of the image. How'd I do? Is that suffice?
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd, for that question. That's great.
We have Lori Nearing next.
Thank you. Wonderful artwork, Will. Really touched me. I think it touched a lot of us, helps me appreciate the details that we so often overlook. And I can sense your spiritual closeness to the work that you shared with us. I have two unrelated questions for you. One was, I was curious if you had already done camping in the winter on your own like that, or was that a new experience for you? And how did you like get water and that kind of thing? And my unrelated question is, I just Googled your name on, um, on, on the internet, and I see a different artist who has the same name as you. So I'm wondering if that person is related to you, and if you could please repeat your website, because I didn't find yours and I wanted to see yours.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Well, yeah, for a while, actually, Todd was my former high school art teacher. Todd there in the audience. And yeah, I think he asked me, well, the first thing he asked me was if I was related to the artist Chuck Close. But no, as far as I know, there's no other artist with the last name Close that I'm related to, at least. But I'm holding down the fort for my family. But besides my mom, she's an illustrator. But yeah, I'll put my website in the chat. I'll make sure to do that, or maybe Anna can do that. But it's Will. Yeah, if you do W, that's my middle initial. That's the kicker right there. That usually is the how you can find me. But it's Will W Close, CLOSE Studios. .com. And yeah, to answer your first question, another one of my teachers and mentors is in the audience, Scott Fairley. I'm trying not to embarrass him, but he taught me probably a good, just about half of everything that I know. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of trips when I was younger and stuff, but yeah, I've done Knowles, and I made trips in high school and sort of private trips, but really I actually took 2 years after high school, and I worked at the Carroll School in Lincoln with Scott Fairley and this other guy, Jave Johnson. That's actually where I'm working now again as a teacher in their outdoor ed program. But yeah, Scott really mentored me and made sure that I knew how to travel safely in the wilderness. And that, I think when I was with him, that was my first solo trip I ever did. So he got me in good shape to take care of myself out there. But yeah, there's a lot of things in that little bit in the beginning where I was talking about taking care of your sort of like inner fire, or that's maybe kind of cheesy for some people, but but that the idea of that your inner furnace, your inner temperature, like, and you got to keep your inner workings going. And there's all sorts of things that go into that. The water, we didn't know if the water was potable on the property, so we didn't attempt that yet. And it also was iced over, so I brought my water in and kept it just in a cooler, which you kind of just need creative solutions out in the woods, but it worked. And then yeah, I don't know. I can go into specifics, but I don't want to bore anyone too much with the nitty gritty. But how does that answer your question? So Lori.
Excellent. So we had a question in the chat. If I can find it. First, when are you going to print the porcupine? Make prints of the porcupine.
Oh yeah.
It's my favorite, Will, please.
Yeah.
Here's a
Is
question.
that Emily?
Yeah, that's Emily.
Yeah.
Hi, Emily.
Hey.
Were there any surprises?
Well, speaking of porcupines, yes, the porcupine was a surprise. That was a very pleasant surprise. And yes, I hope we'll be getting prints out eventually. Stay tuned for that. And I believe that the porcupine will be in there. But yeah, so surprises, I guess, yeah, it was great seeing the porcupine, but I was surprised to see, some of the different scats there, like the bear and what I think was moose. Although, I talking to one of the Fish and Game guys, he's seen them there and tracked them, so it wasn't surprising then. But and then I saw a mountain cranberry. That was very surprising. I don't think I seen that much where I'm from. And just, I think the sheer diversity of species was really surprising, especially the lichens that sort of seem to first colonize the soil around the pond. There's just tons and tons of different beautiful lichens and tons of things in the heath family, so like the wintergreens and some mountain laurel, I think, and so on. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a deeper, more wise answer of what I was surprised by, but I don't know. I'm a slow thinker. That's my maybe. So maybe I'll have to get back to you on that one, but I don't know. Something might come to me.
So there's the quote on your last slide.
Oh yeah.
Martha was asking about who to credit that quote with. Did it have an attribution, or was it attributed to anybody?
As far as I can tell, it just says that I think it's Ashburnham and Ashby and the people that conserved the town, but
Yeah. Well,
I'd like to know.
we do still know some of the folks who were the ones that commissioned that rock. So I'm going to reach out to them and see if we can figure out who wrote that. But yeah, it's a great, we'll ask the folks at the Ashby Land Trust who paid to have it put up there. I have heard stories about how they got that rock up there. It wasn't easy. Yeah, thanks, Scott. I might ask Alan Pease as well. Yep, absolutely. Let's see. And what a fitting, I was going to remind you, Will, of the surprising cup of tea you had at the summit with those two.
Oh, right.
Guys. So maybe
Yeah.
maybe that's something that was surprising.
Yeah. I met these two these EMTs of all people up on the mountain, and they were like had this whole setup going on. They were brewing tea up there. They had this like camp stove, and they told me like more than I could ever need or want to know about tea. This one guy was like, that was like his chill activity, because they were both EMTs during the day, at night. So that was sort of their activity, was to go up on the summit at sunset and have tea. So they actually asked me if they needed a lighter. They forgot it, all the way down in the parking lot. So like, yeah, sure do. It was funny. Before that point, it was just the porcupine pretty much that I was interacting with. So that's probably a little awkward talking to them. But yeah, it was great to meet those guys up there. But yeah, trying to think what else. Oh, and I also saw Emily and Jassy, I believe, out in the woods as they were doing some trail work, which was also a great little surprise, although somewhat planned. Yeah.
This has been so great. Well, do we have any lingering? Let's see. Todd posted a link in the chat. Who's waiting? Oh, Scott, do you have a question?
I do. I was thinking back to your first solo journey, Will, and hearing a more in-depth version of your second solo journey. And I'm wondering if you could either compare those or offer any advice to someone who wants to spend a lot of time alone.
That's a great question. Yeah. Thanks, Scott. It's good to see you too. Yeah, let's see. I mean, there's a whole bunch of advice, or sort of nuggets that I would give, but I think the main one is I think just taking it slow, and there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of resources now. There's a lot of great ways to like get involved, whether it's through a land trust or through AMC or something, or any number of programs that if you're like really freshly new to camping and being on the land, maybe could start there. But once you get a little experience, really the best thing I'd say to do is just, it's all about taking care of yourself. So it's, you know, it's all about the decision. So there's, you know, there's short-term decisions that have, you know, long-term outcomes. So, but then there's, you know, all sorts of preventions you can do. Like, you know, one Scott, you know, you would always tell me is, you know, don't cut wood after the sun goes down. You know, I did that on my first solo trip, and I practiced that, you know, now at Watotic as well, and that's, you know, kept me safe. You know, having a trusty walking pole is also a great thing. You know, no matter what age you are, you know, having a cane or a stick is a great way to make sure you're keeping yourself safe. And, you know, if you have a fire, I used it as my, you know, my sort of hook for my fire as well, or to boil my water and stuff. But yeah, that's a huge question. I think, yeah, just slowing down and knowing your body and what you can handle, and, you know, making sure you're telling people where you're going, and paying attention to the subtle indicators like the directions is just very important, and will keep you safe out there. But yeah, take it slow. And yeah, if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to talk to people. But yeah, best I can do.
That's great.
It's a big question.
I think so.
It's good life lesson too.
Yeah.
So I think it's almost 6 o'clock, so we're right on time. And if anybody wants to stay a little bit longer and chat or whatever, that's great. But I'll say this has been a fabulous year. It has been such a journey, and so many people have made it possible. And I really want to thank everybody who has been on this journey with us, for all that you do, for what we're trying to do here. It's a special part of the world. It's a special group of people, and we're a family that is growing and strong, and I'm just so excited to be a part of it. So really a lot of appreciation. I also want to just say hello to Daniela Esponda, who has just joined us. She's joining us from Mexico. And so she gets the award for the farthest traveled, even though it's still virtual. We're so happy to see you, Daniela.
Happy to see you.
Daniela.
Hi, Daniela.
So it's so good to see everybody, and I really, really appreciate everything that that you all have done for us. So please stay tuned for upcoming shows with Will and his art, and further collaboration and education, and just I hope you all don't be strangers, and come join us as we take this journey. All right, be well, and we'll see you next time. And stay on if you want to. Yeah, great. Oh, great.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
It's good.
Good. Yay.